Hi, Dan.
Hello, Terina.
Thank you for talking to us.
Sure, happy
Okay.
to.
So can you tell me more about how you work and how you think that has value for families and children?
Certainly. I work as a therapist with traumatized children and their parents or caregivers in a way that's based on attachment principles. I developed this treatment model around those principles because they're based on safety. The traumatized child needs to be safe above all else, especially in relationship with their parents or their primary caregivers. And so my goal then is to facilitate that, have the child come to trust the parent or caregiver, and then help the parent or caregiver not to take it so personally when the child rejects them. So I work very hard. So the treatment starts by my getting to know the carer, the parent, so that they can have a better understanding of why their child will not respond to them, defies them, avoids them, in order to be able to stay patient, not take it as personally, and be open and engaged with the child so that gradually the child will start to trust them. So I do that in the therapy as well, and then show the parent how to do it at home. And in doing it in the therapy, I model and I will help the child to start to open up, to trust me a bit, to trust the caregiver a bit, me, and back and forth. And while we're doing that, we're also looking at the hard parts of his life or her life. So it might start with current problems. This child might steal, for example. Well, if they don't think about it or address it, they're filled with shame about it, and this problem just gets worse and worse. So if I can help them focus on, say, they're stealing or they're lying a great deal or defying their caregivers, gradually, and those problems start to decrease, the shame is less, and then they're more open to talk about other areas of hard for them. And often the other areas are the reasons for the problems in the first place, which is the original abuse and neglect. And it's a storytelling model. We're co-creating the story of the child, both the meaning of the current troubles and the lack of trust in the parent, but also the meaning of the original abuse and neglect, which they probably assumed it was due to being bad kids. So it's a general reducing the trauma, increasing the attachment, reducing the overwhelming negative set about life, about self and others, and increasing hope and possibility that they're worthy kids, they are lovable, and these caregivers really care about them, will keep them safe.
Yeah, and I imagine that has a real value for the caregiver as well. They're able to hold that mirror up and see how.
For sure, it keeps the caregiver involved. I'm very clear with them. If this child is going to make it, it's because of the relationship with you more than the relationship with me. Traditionally, traumatized children were seen alone without the caregiver and being an active part of that. Whereas this model says, wait a second, the child has to just trust these caregivers. They have to be able to help to facilitate the trust. So caregivers are empowered then, and they feel great when the child will start crying about the past trauma in their presence. And many times that's sort of been a breakthrough where the child becomes very vulnerable. The caregiver gives them a little cuddle, and the attachment builds while the impact of the trauma decreases.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And so you've travelled a long way
Yes.
to be with us at the conference in Tanzania. What do you hope the value is of you being here at this conference? And when you speak at conferences, what are you hoping that comes out of that?
Well, my hope is that those who attend this conference will see the value of this model that's based on attachment theory and research, the value of attachment, the value of how to build relationships with these children, the value of themselves as key. Like I said, it's a relationship is so important. I want to help the people at this conference to see it's not just learning techniques, not doing things to children or their caregivers, but having a relationship with them so they trust you more as well. And because they see your confidence in them, your hope for them, your ability to see their strengths, that the children and their carers will start to see that as well. This conference, I think, is especially important because Many conferences are for organizations that deal with less troubled families, less trauma. And when we talk about children living on the streets, we're talking about children who have no services at all, and caregivers who probably don't get enough support and training that they need. I've always had a commitment to help the most vulnerable children out there, and the situations of the communities where there's the greatest amount of struggle to give these children the services they need. And your program, Railway Children, the Giacconi program, I think are two excellent programs in the world, two of the very important programs that does that, that has that mission. So when I was asked to contribute to this conference, I thought a great opportunity to do a small bit.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And I know from the stories I've heard you tell, and when you've spoken, you've worked with some extremely traumatized and difficult children and find a way of breaking through. So it's positive to know it is possible.
It is possible.
If you can reframe your understanding
Correct.
of how to make the right interventions.
These are
with
not
children.
bad kids. These are not unworkable people. These are folks. They've been hurt so badly they don't trust. But you're able to build trust. Now, I'm not saying I've helped every child I work with. That's unrealistic. It will never happen. Sometimes I don't know why I wasn't able to help them, or the good caregivers weren't able to help them. But many more of the children can be helped than we thought in the past, in developing programs and therapies and caregiving philosophies and principles that are based on our new understanding of how the brain works, of how attachment works, is a way forward, I'm convinced.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it will resonate for the practitioners here in Tanzania when they're out on the ground and working with their challenging cases.
I hope so.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.